Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon to all. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I'd ask all of us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. So the next item on the agenda would be the public comments. I just want to make a couple of comments before the public comments. I believe some of you might be here. There was going to be potentially an item in the agenda related to a potential development on the corner of 154th Street and 87th Avenue. That agenda item has been pulled. Obviously, you are here. Some of you might be here to speak on it, and we welcome your opinions. Due to the fact that maybe there's going to be several persons that would like to speak on the matter, we would like to remind you that we do have a 3-minute time limit, and just in the interest of allowing everybody to speak on the item, for or against, or any other public comments. I'm just, I guess, assuming what could be some of the comments that you guys would like to make. So without further ado, the next item would be public comments.
Mr. Chair, also I would make a point that some people here may be on the Loch Lomond matter, which is before you, and if they are, they should wait for their comments till we reach the quasi-judicial portion of the agenda.
Right, so there's two different items. There's the public comments that will open up, and then there's only one item that's what is considered quasi-judicial, which everyone will be able to present their opinion or their recommendation to the board. The quasi-judicial is only, from what I understand in the agenda item, related to a property in Loch Lomond. So if anyone would like to come forward with public comments or online, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Esperanza Reynolds.
Press the button, Mr. Moreira.
Is it working now?
Yes, now
There
it
we
is.
go. Okay. All right. So,
Esperanza Reynolds.
do you need me to hold up for them?
No.
Okay. So for the record again, Brian Morera, 15853 Northwest 91st Court, Miami Lakes, 33018. So I am here on that item that was removed from the agenda, understanding full well that the item is off the agenda. Despite it being withdrawn, we wanted to come, and I say we because I know many of the people in the audience with me are here for the same purpose. We wanted to make sure that this board fully understood preemptively where the community stands on such a development on that parcel at 87th and 154th. In no circumstance will members of Satori and the surrounding communities support a hospital or a freestanding emergency department in that location. The slogan of this town is growing beautifully, not just growing. It is this board's job to act as a guardian against unnecessary and unplanned growth, which is essentially what this type of development would bring to that area. You're talking about two-story single-family homes that are having to have a massive structure in the case of the full-fledged hospital. Our town currently has that area zoned as BU1A. Under our land development code, a BU1A district is for retail and service convenience facilities which satisfy the essential and frequent needs of the adjacent residential neighborhood. Now, unironically, they sought to change it to BU2. What does BU2 mean under our land development code? Well, the purpose of BU2 Special Business District is to provide for large-scale commercial and or office facilities which serve the needs of large urban areas. Now, I don't know how often you guys travel to that side of Miami Lakes, but I would say that that side of Miami Lakes is the definition of suburban, not urban. We don't need that kind of development or that kind of zoning in that area. And the only thing it would bring is undue traffic. And I have to put in the political consideration of the bridge wars that we're having with the city of Hialeah, that such a development would practically necessitate the opening of the 154th Street Bridge so that our neighbors across I-75 can access such a hospital or emergency room. And I want to be clear, my opposition is not just to that full-fledged hospital, but rather to any medical facility. I'm not talking about doctors' offices or things like that. I'm talking about medical facilities, which bring a lot of unnecessary traffic. One last thing that I want to point out to this board is I hold in my hands the declaration of restrictions for that parcel, along with all the subsequent amendments to it. In there, they mention this commercial zone, this commercial parcel. And here's what they put in, and this part has never been removed in any of the amendments.
Sir, I'm so sorry. Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, I'm just going to finish this last part.
No,
If
sir.
you don't mind, let me just finish my thought. That's usually how it works. Once you run out of time, you just can finish your thought. It states that the commercial uses in that parcel will be limited to grocery stores, drug stores, restaurants, office buildings, banking and financial institutions, and other neighborhood retail service uses. Nothing about a medical center. I'm done. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tina Garinavar. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we hear you. Please. This is the Zoom.
Hi, can I say something quickly? I don't know if you can hear me. It's Miriam. I'm one of the board members. I have to appear by Zoom, but we're having an issue hearing when the Zoom members speak. So I don't know if we want to handle people there live first and then whoever's waiting by Zoom, so there's no confusion.
Yes, we could do everyone that's
Can anybody
here in
hear?
person. Can you hear me when I speak?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so we're
I would
gonna,
like to make a comment.
okay,
I don't think they can hear us.
we're allowing public comments, but we're first gonna be doing the residents that are here in the town chamber. And then we will open it up to the members that are on the Zoom call. So we have a resident here with us live, and we're going to proceed with her public comments. Go ahead. Please state
Okay.
your name and address for the record.
Yes, thank you, committee members. It's Bonnie Cintrone, and I have lived at 14770 Lewis Road since 1974. So I have seen the continuous and ongoing development firsthand. And it's apparent that the Graham companies wanted to maximize their investment as much as possible, and they have indeed endeavored to do so as beautifully as possible. But enough is enough. The quality of life for 33,000 some residents depends on stopping further growth. We have grown enough, and to add more at this time would just have a negative impact upon all of us. I am here to say that I and many others are fed up with zoning rules being changed in order to accommodate more development projects. Many of them we would never even want, especially this last one that we're not discussing tonight, but I'm speaking in general terms. Just enough already. I'm imploring the committee to please not recommend zoning changes of any kind, now or in the future. Let's stick with what we have and not change the master plans and the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another resident here live, so go ahead.
Right. All right. So my name is Raul Alonso. I'm a board-certified cardiologist. I practice in the area. I live in Royal Oaks along with a lot of colleagues. I don't represent them, but I know what they're thinking. They don't want this in their backyard. We know hospitals. We know how it is. This is going to be terrible for us, for everybody in that community. It's going to be loud, it's going to be obnoxious, it's going to be tough. And if push comes to shove, if this is going to go through, I know myself and my colleagues, we will do everything we can to start petitions and other things that we don't like doing. We're not political and we don't like to get involved. Just letting you know that we have to.
Thank you. We have another resident here in chambers.
Hi, good evening. My name is Daniel Del Rio. It's 15922 Northwest 87 Court. I'm a new Miami Laker. I've been living here for 3 years. I've been in love with this town for many years. I got families everywhere, in every area of the city. And as right now, well, I moved out of Kendall because I used to live in Kendall because traffic is crazy. There's no way that you can get out of the town and get in time to your work. Take 2-3 hours to get out of the city. And I moved to Pembroke Pine looking for more time for my family. Happened the same. The city grows so high that it's difficult to get out of the city, get in time at work. You got to get 2-3 hours before, get up early in the morning to get in time to your job. So finally, we found a property here in Satori, a nice community that was new developed, and we fell in love with the whole town. And I think that 90% of the residents of this town want to keep it as a town. As of now, you need to use police force to control the traffic on 154. So imagine how gonna be going in an emergency building right there on the corner. Not counting all the shootings, everything that happened on the surroundings, never gonna end here in our town with all the news and every craziness that coming with it. Also, I want to bring another topic, and it wasn't mentioned here. For the last 3 years I've been living here on the empty lot. We used to have like 5, maybe 10 cows. It was acceptable. I know that you guys are helping the Don family to save some money on taxes or whatever because they're a good contribution to the town, and it's okay. But for the last 3 months, they moved like around 40 cows to that lot. It was impossible to get out of the yard. I got many neighbors that live close to the lot. They can't even open the doors of the house because the smell was so bad they can breathe. So I hope they move the cows for the right reason right now because it's empty. We get back to normal breeding. But I asking for you guys to control that situation because we call the city and you guys, someone here said that, oh, it's agriculture's zone and you have to call them. But we vote for you guys, so you take care of us. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another resident. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Board.
Hi.
Boris Foster, 15221 Menteith Place. I kind of surprised by how many people showed up, but I wrote this before. I'm here to speak about the proposed change, zoning change, and the proposed Mount Sinai Hospital at 154th Street and 87th Avenue. Specifically, the notice I received on the proposed zoning change. I received no notice of the proposed zoning change at the hospital. I live in an HOA called Lake Glen Ellen, and the Lake Glen Ellen is across the street. It's located at 87th Avenue and 154th Street, across from the vacant lot. Lake Glen Ellen runs from 87th Avenue to 82nd Avenue, going east, and from 154th Street going south on 87th Avenue. I tell you about the location of Lake Glen Ellen because, as I said, we're across the street, and we found out about these proposals by word of mouth. There was there were 2 letter-sized papers that were pinned on the fence surrounding the vacant property. This is hardly any notice. I personally am against the change, but that's not my main reason for being here today. My comment is really about the 141 Lake Glen Ellen homeowners. They deserve to receive at least a courtesy notice of what are going to be humongous changes to their backyard. Their backyards border 154th Street and border 87th Avenue. I don't think it's right or fair that we are not mailed these notices when these changes are going to change our neighborhood so drastically. It makes the entire system of public comment really a sham if we don't get notices of these hearings. So finally, if and when Mount Sinai appears before this board, I hope the boards will ask what notice they sent to the neighbors or their proposed neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted.
For the record, may I clarify a point that he made? Mr. Foster, if the item had gone all the way to appear on this board, yes, you would have received a notice, and so would all your neighbors, all the way to 5,000 feet from the property itself. A project of this size would require notification to every property owner within 5,000-foot radius, which is practically most of the town. If it was a little smaller in scale, it would be 2,500 feet, so half the size, but it still would be most of the west side and probably a little bit of the east side. So the only reason that you did not receive a notification is because the item was pulled the day where they were supposed to mail them, but they were actually printed. So
Okay.
Right.
With word of mouth, that's
again, yes, no, that would definitely be unfair.
Thank
but
you very
yeah.
much for that.
Yes, please.
Hello. Good evening. Mayor, I know he's not here, but
Let me just clarify something though. We're the Planning and Zoning Board, so we're not elected. Actually, we're appointed by the different members of
no, but I thought
the
that
board.
the mayor was going to be here, so I just wanted to
Oh, I
address
didn't
him
know.
out of
Okay, so
respect.
because I know that there was a comment before about whether we were elected or not. We're not. We're appointed by the different the mayor
Sure.
and the commissioners, and we're here we're residents like you guys. None of us here get paid for any of this stuff. We do this because we also want to, make sure that our town continues to grow beautifully and nicely, and our best intentions are always what we try to bring to the table. So with that, just go ahead.
No, thank you. Well, tonight I address you as a concerned neighbor and as the community
Sir,
vice president of Satori.
I'm sorry, can you please state your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yes, my name is Mario Cubias, and I live in 8961 Northwest 154th Terrace, Miami Lakes, Florida, in the Satori community. And as I said before, I'm sorry, I address you today as Satori, not only as a neighbor, but a part of the board. I'm the vice president of the board of Satori, and the reason I'm speaking before you today is to express my concern regarding the development of the urgent care or any medical facility in the adjacent property in the Satori residential community. One of the main reasons of my concern is not only limited to the potential traffic increase that said development could cause in our community, but also the fact that carrying out say project will hinder future development plans for the pedestrian bridge park built to honor Jakey. We know that he passed away from a very uncommon disease, and the park is dedicated to him and to his family. And it not only serves as a way to honor the name, but also helps us to grow our sense of community. Please don't forget that I really want to address the mayor in this because he was one of the precursors of this idea, and it's part of the legacy that is going to be left when he's gone to Miami Lakes community, town, sorry. So we cannot forget that we're living in a community, and it's imperative that our voices are heard to preserve the peace, especially when those voices account for a majority, like in this case. As a vice president, I speak on behalf of most of those voices, at least from my community and adjacent communities. And we express our non-acceptance of this development of say project, as it will disrupt the daily and quiet lives with 24/7 traffic, ongoing noise, and the potential opening on 154th highway, since it's so close to the proposed hospital. And at last, such development will forever alter Miami Lake's essence. We like our town. We don't want to be a city yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? We have another resident.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Hachar, 15450 Northwest 88th Avenue. I am also a resident of Satori, but I'm proud to say that I was raised in Miami Lakes. My husband and I have our business in Miami Lakes, and we're also Miami Lakers. I've watched how this town has grown over basically my whole life, and I think it's an amazing town. We have a few things we need to work out, but we're not above that. And again, we're growing beautifully, but as many others have said before, we have to say where we're gonna stop. My husband and I chose to continue to live in Miami Lakes because of the quality of life that we have here. And bringing in a hospital of this size, which, I mean, it doesn't really fit what Miami Lakes is all about at the end of the day. I see a lot of my neighbors here, but I know that my house is probably one of the closest ones to the lot. It's literally right across the street. So much so that my 12-year-old daughter, who is on the autism spectrum, her bedroom window would look directly into where this proposed hospital is. Also, in regards to the cows, I've lived in my home now for well over 3 years, and never in the past 3 years have we ever had a problem with the smell of the cows. It's gotten so bad in the last 3 months that when I take my dog out to go for a walk in the morning, I have to go back inside because the smell is so repugnant. You can't be outside. We can't be outside in the pool. We can't do anything. So we want to see this land developed, but we want to see it developed properly with a Miami Lakes feel to it. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to speak or give a public comment? We have another resident here physically, and then we'll attend to the Zoom calls.
Hello. Hi, my name is Amy Morales. I reside at 15724 Northwest 81st Court. We also have another home at 15962 Northwest 79th Court, and we've lived in the community for over 20 years. And are completely against building on that lot. It does not make sense. You're bringing a scenario where you're going to have increased traffic. You're raising the incidence that there is going to be an accident. Have you ever known people not to rush into an emergency setting or an urgent care when they are in, when there's trauma or when there's something involved? We don't have the infrastructure to support it, nor do we want it. We do not want to put ourselves in a position where we're opening that bridge. There's no need for it. There are a million, well, not a million, but we have so many commercial spaces that are open and available, and if that's what they really want to build, even though we already have 3 urgent cares, then let them do it by the airport, let them do it somewhere where it already exists. But to rezone, I would ask this, sorry, guys. I don't talk to people a lot anymore since COVID face to face. So, just please reconsider and understand that we zone this town for a reason, and greed should not take over, people's lives and their sense of community and their families. And we've managed to keep this town beautiful, and please continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another resident.
Hello, my name is Juan Peña, 6923 Seagrape Terrace. I live on the east side of Miami Lakes, but I'm here as a town resident. I grew up in Hialeah for roughly 30 years, and I've been now in Miami Lakes for 25 years. I'm in Miami Lakes because I got frustrated with Hialeah's lack of zoning, how they would change the zoning everywhere to meet their pocketbook. There's 2 main issues in the town of Miami Lakes is safety/police and traffic. Changing the zoning, whether it's a hospital or anything else, it's the issue with traffic. People are fed up with the traffic. We cannot extend our roads because the right-of-way lines are already existing. There's no room for expansion. And whether it's a hospital or anything else, it's changing the zoning that I'm against. I've been working in the traffic field for about 38 years, and I know it will not get any better. And again, changing the zoning is making it worse. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another resident here at the town chambers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gustavo Gonzalez, 15145 Northwest 92nd Avenue. I want to commend my neighbors. They have eloquently expressed their concerns. I take a different point of view. I'm not here to school you. You know what's wrong, and you know what's right. Why don't we spend some energy in trying to place in that particular parcel or any other parcel thereafter the right thing? I don't know about you all, but a Trader Joe's, one of the fancier anchor stores, could definitely attract business. We have the population, we have the per capita. I'm not a businessman. Like the cardiologist, I'm a registered respiratory therapist, I'm a registered nurse, I'm a firefighter EMT, and I'm master of none. But I'm smart enough to stand here in front of you and tell you, I don't need to school you. You know what's right, and forgive me, I forgot to take my cap off. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public? So at this time, I'd like to go to the Zoom, those residents that would like to speak on the call.
Esperanza Reynolds, 8465 Menzies Terrace. We regularly watch the meetings online because we are very interested in what this group does. For us, you are what we used to call the architectural committee that would provide perspective on projects. You are indeed very important to us. Your approach of always asking whether the community that surrounds a project is in favor or against is sincerely appreciated. You take great care in encouraging that other property owners have a voice in a process that impacts our quality of life. On or around July 20th, we heard that a proposed Mount Sinai Hospital was coming before this board. It was all hearsay. And that lack of communications is why we are here trying to speak today, to make sure that whether the applicant retracted the proposal or not, we have the right to know details from the authorities, not by word of mouth. Why? There's a lot of conjecture, fears that are transferred. The first thing that we heard is that our properties would lose the backyard through eminent domain because the road would require widening. Then that the zoning change was done to ultimately force the bridge at 154th open. And finally, that some were brokering this deal to gain a huge commission, and that the owner of the property had been approached to enter into these type of discussions because some realtors, businessmen, and brokers are using their position to gain advantage of projects. This whole thing is just unacceptable. It would be so much better if any and all projects follow what the Municipal Code of Ordinance says, Section 13309, that calls for notification to any and all property owners within 5,000 feet of any proposed zoning changes. And then when people come to us, we will be aware of what is happening. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Just so procedurally, those that are on the call, what we'll do is we'll have Ashley reach out to you and then mute or unmute you so that there's no interference and everyone can listen without interference. So Ashley, I turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Chair. All right, so first, we have Adrian Medina. Adrian Medina, are you here for a public comment?
No.
Okay, all right. Laura C., are you here for a public comment?
Yes, I am. My name is Laura Cole at 15502 Northwest 88th Court. Like all my neighbors, I just ask you, please, no hospital, no ER. That's it.
Okay. All right, Tony Salem, are you here for a public comment?
I'm here for the Loch Lomond issue.
Okay, just hold on. We're not gonna take those, are we gonna take the public comments? No, not yet. We'll be taking you when that item comes up. All right, the next person, Civil Military Operations Logistics.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Nilda Toro.
Are you here, are you here for Mount Sinai?
Yes.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Nilda Toro. I live in 8981 Northwest 154 Terrace, and I'm also live inside of the Satori community. I want to thank everybody, all my neighbors, to coming over and also expressing their concerns. I think it's very important that what's going to be happening in our backyard, that you guys listen to what the neighbors want in that area is going to affect us tremendously. If we have a hospital in our backyards, it's like I mentioned before, we are not building a hospital and we're building homes around the hospital. We're bringing a hospital into our homes. And this is a complete different scenario. We live here, we have a life here, and this situation will disturb our lives and we can't go back. The moment that this takes over, gonna have a lot of people moving out of Miami Lakes. So please listen to what we want, and we have elected you guys to do the right decision. And I hope you listen to what we need and what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Aiden Alvarez, do you have a public comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Angel Alvarez, do you have a public comment?
No.
All right. Angel Pinto, do you have a public comment? Angel Pinto, do you have a public comment?
Yes, it's in reference to the Loch Lomond.
Okay, hold on just a moment, sir. Beatrice, do you have a public comment?
No.
Okay. Christopher Crespo, do you have a public comment?
No.
Okay. Daniel Shivas, do you have a public comment?
No.
Eugene Ochoa, do you have a public comment? Eugene, do you have a public comment? Okay, Gabriel Hidalgo, do you have a public comment?
No.
All right, Jesus Cabrera, do you have a public comment? Jesus?
No.
No. All right, Joshua, do you have a public comment?
No.
Okay, Chris, do you have a public comment?
No.
All right, Marissa Gonzalez, do you have a public comment?
No.
Okay, V Perez, do you have a public comment?
No.
Is there anyone else here on Zoom to make a public comment? Again, is there anyone else on Zoom to make a public comment that does not have to do with the Loch Lomond home?
Yes, can you hear me, Ashley?
Yes. Please say your name and your address.
My name is Angelo Garcia. Address is 16441 Northwest 77th Place. Do you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you, Mr. Garcia.
Great. What brings me here today is, I think in a nutshell, the majority of these people have given you everything that they pretty much want you to hear. The only thing is that I hope you guys are going to hear them and are going to move this information forward and take this to this council so they can make sure that we do the right thing. As Bonnie and much of the other residents stated, let's make sure that we don't change our master plan. Our master plan was put there to be followed. There's a lot of people against this. I am actually one of them. A couple of gentlemen stated something very important a little while ago. He stated that when these changes are trying to be done with little pieces of little sticky on cow pasture stands or on boards are not enough. We should put this in the newspaper. We should let people know what's happening. We just can't kind of hide things and put them on little teeny lines. Like if this was a car dealer trying to, no, let's be transparent with our people. Okay, this is extremely important. So again, I hope this board really takes this very serious and takes all this whole entire picture of all these people that have come forward today, that have taken their time, that you definitely seriously listen to what they've got to say. So that's all I've got to say. And I am totally, totally against this Mount Sinai project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peggy?
Hello, Ashley. This is
Peggy?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Please state your name and
Ashley,
your
can you hear
address.
me? Yes. My name is Tina Galinar. I live in Lake Glen Ellen at 8240 Menteith Terrace, Miami Lakes. I have been a homeowner here since 1980 when Lake Glen Ellen started, and I'm now a member of the board of directors of the HOA at Lake Glen Ellen. I want to tell you that I'm completely opposed to the project of the hospital in our backyard. It will make the traffic horrendous, which it already is. It's going to be much worse. The noise, the ambulances, the sirens, whatever, even an emergency center is not necessary. We have a great emergency center, ER, nearby, so it's not needed. There's a lot of land here in Miami Lakes where this kind of facility could be placed. There's industrial areas, office areas. There's a lot of land. This parcel that you're looking at is very residential, and there's a lot of homes, children, and we don't want to have our children having to listen to ambulances at 2 in the morning when they're trying to sleep and get ready for school the next day. This is completely unacceptable, and I'm completely opposed to this. As one of the first residents in this west part of Miami Lakes, I really think that our life will change. And even though I have been here for 41 years, I will consider moving out of here because I want peace in my backyard. So please, and I want to also say to this board that I really appreciate being their volunteer work. I know it's not easy, and I thank them for listening to us and giving us this platform where we can express our opinion. And I really thank you for volunteering, because I know that you love Miami Lakes just like we do, and that you're going to do the right thing. So thank you very much for listening. And I know that you do the right thing. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy, are you here for a public comment?
Yeah, my name is Mark Warmack, 6600 Main Street, apartment 1228, 33014. So we've got friends in Satori, and we also object to this being put in for the reasons that everybody stated. Traffic, the pressure to reopen the bridge, which will just bring more traffic into Miami Lakes. a couple things that people haven't brought up is there's a school zone right down the road. I would challenge the hospital to, during rush hour, get an ambulance and put the lights on and try to drive through that traffic, and have times on whether it's a viable plot for them. I don't think it's accessible like they think it is. So I object and would like the board, the commission to deny the zoning change. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Priscilla? Priscilla, do you have a public comment? Okay. Raul, do you have a public comment? Raul?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. Renee, do you have a public comment?
Not on this issue. I'm here for the Loch Lomond. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rose, do you have a public comment? Rose?
Not at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else here on Zoom that has a public comment in regards to Mount Sinai or anything else? Okay, Chair, I think we're done with
Okay,
that issue.
I guess I'm going to make a public comment. I'm really happy that a lot of people are actually here, because I'm going to take 2 seconds to explain what our role is as the Planning and Zoning Board. As I mentioned, we're not elected officials. We're appointed by the councilman and the mayor to serve here in the best interest of the town. At no point have I ever seen, and I'm the chairman of the board, I have not seen the proposed plans that you have seen. No one has tried to come and talk to, at least myself, and I probably speak for the board, with a plan in place. So there's no hidden agenda. I want to make sure that you understand this is completely transparent. We found out about it pretty much the same way many of you did, because the whole notice procedure and the whole sending to us as board members the documents only takes place once the applicant has filed an application and there's certain things that go into place. And at that point, we are notified, we are provided the information, and the notices go out to the residents. So there was, there's no communication between the board members and the applicants until they literally come in front of us. And if there is any such communication before we ever vote on anything, we have to disclose it. Again, full transparency. And the role of this board is simply to, if there's a change of use, a variance, or something to that effect, is that they come in front of us. I know sometimes residents may think that we are approving development just because we're approving development. If that parcel is already zoned for a certain thing, this board does not have the authority to say you can't build that there. That's not specifically the case from what I understand so far of the hospital. Because from what I understand from the public comments is that there will be a change of zoning required that will require them to come here. But I'm just saying, in generally speaking, there's buildings that have been built in the town that did not go in front of the Planning and Zoning Board, because not everything that gets built comes before us. Only those items where there's a variance or a change of use or some special condition, that's the only thing that comes in front of us. And I just wanted to clarify that, and at least, if that brings any kind of comfort to you. I wanted to address the notice issue. There was no, anything going on, and our role as a Planning and Zoning Board. And you could rest assured that we will, should this come up, look at it with the best interests of the town. And obviously, we've heard your comments.
Chair, there's one more person on Zoom that would like to speak.
Okay.
Lazaro? Lazaro? Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you. This is Susana Herrera. I live in 14970 Dumbarton Place, Miami Lakes. Thank you very much for taking my call. Thank you, board members, for sitting through this process. The feedback I'd like to bring is the reassurance that we need to all be committed to maintaining the town. I mean, we should look behind our backs and see that we're the town of Miami Lakes, not a city. I think the hospital, I oppose the hospital coming or anything outside of what the master plan was designated for that area. You know, we keep making exceptions to zoning because we're pressured that we're gonna get sued and whatever. I've sat through plenty of these, and the perfect example was when we granted the Grahams the zoning change for them to be able to do the senior living facility along with ALF, and that fell through. And the reason why that went through and the council supported and the board supported was because, oh my God, it's a final piece of the puzzle to our master plan, right? You guys preach that master plan as we really need to defend the integrity of that master plan. Well, hear your challenge and maintain the master plan. And if it's not zoned for that, we should remain and defend the master plan that supports our town. Anything outside of that, we're doing a disservice for all the residents and the town. So again, let's keep the same vision of our beautiful town. It's gonna get challenging. We need to unite and defend our town. And we thank you for being in a position to be able to help be the voices for the residents that are coming before you. We're here to support you. You let us know how you need our support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here on Zoom that would like to speak?
Yes. Like Rene Basulto, 7220 South Crestwick. I would like at this moment just to thank the chairman for explaining the process and recognize that there are several Boy Scouts from Troop 660 which are participating to fulfill one of the requirements for advancement, and his explanation was very helpful for them. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Anyone else?
If you want to come up, you can come up to the podium.
Camacho, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I live in 15911 Northwest 87 Court. I live in Satori, and my backyard is right on the 87th. In the past weeks, we just moved like a few months ago, and in the past weeks, we've been planning our backyard like a nice, peaceful area, and all of this gonna change if the hospital is there. We were thinking this could be our forever home. That will definitely change, and I can see many of the community thinks the same. So I hope that when you will take in consideration the changing of the zone, you take us in consideration. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in chambers that would like to speak? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak?
Okay, at this time, I'd like to close public comments and move forward. The next item on the agenda would be the approval of our minutes of our last meeting, which took place July 6, 2021. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make the motion. Move.
We have a motion from Board Member Fernandez. Is there a second?
Second.
Board Member Leoncio has seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed say
Aye.
nay. Hearing none opposed, the item passes. The next item on the agenda would be the what is considered the quasi-judicial public hearing for the variance being requested by applicant Juan Fernandez. I'd like to ask the town attorney to please read into the rules regarding the quasi-judicial public, and also remind the board that if there has been any ex parte communication, we need to submit either the written documentation or say it here on the dais.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated by the chair at this time, before I read the disclosure, has anyone here received any or had any ex parte communication with the applicant, staff, or anybody from the public regarding hearing VAR 2021-0150, Juan Fernandez, location 16100 East Troon Circle?
I'd like to say that I received a phone call from the attorney, I believe, that's involved, but I told him I didn't want to discuss it.
Mr. Coviello, I received, I spoke on 2 occasions with 2 residents. I stated on the record last time, I'll definitely fill out the ex parte form and submit it. I can state the names if it needs to be.
Sure.
Yeah, Michelle Leon, which she's in the audience, and I don't know her name, but she's right in front of her.
Okay.
And if you'll recall, I had a phone call that I made note of last time when we heard this, that someone had contacted me, and I immediately explained to them that I was a member of the board and could no longer have any discussion about it.
Okay. Are there any other?
I had submitted in writing. I have also called today. I spoke with one of the residents of Loch Lomond as well regarding the matter.
Okay.
And I have it in.
I'll get you the form.
No, I submitted it already.
Oh, you submitted it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. Board Member Yanis would like to speak.
Yes, I'm not sure. Sorry, I can't be there. I had an exposure at home, so for the safety of everybody, I'm here, but I don't know if I should just raise my hand or jump in. But I did receive, and I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, a telephone communication from the lobbyist. My understanding is the homeowner's lobbyist, not attorney, requesting that we meet, but we never actually met. That was the extent of the conversation. My understanding is to fill out the disclosure form, it needs to have happened within the last 7 to 10 days, and this was some months ago, so I didn't complete it. If I need to complete one, let me know, and I would be happy to.
I'll forward you the form again, Board Member Yanis.
Thank you.
For everyone's knowledge, that what our code provides is that for ex parte communication, specifically with the Planning and Zoning Board, is that you disclose it at the time just to afford the applicant the opportunity to address any of the concerns or the comments that you may have received out. And I think that you've all pretty much done that. The only thing I would ask, Chair, everyone here pretty much has stated who they are, and many of them are here in the audience, but I think in your case, was the person calling you in favor or against? Just
No, I communicated with Wayne Reinhardt. I understand he's part of the association, and I had a question regarding that.
At this time, then, Mr. Chair, I'm going to read the disclosure. Okay. Please be advised that the following items described as variance 2021-0150 is quasi-judicial in nature. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and the staff have made their presentation on each item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the board to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Persons representing your organization must present evidence of their authority to speak on behalf of that organization. Any person presenting documents to the board should provide the town clerk with a minimum of 10 copies. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedure may be obtained from the clerk. And at this time, Mr. Chair, I think it would be appropriate if the clerk swears in.
Everyone.
At this time, I'm going to swear anyone that's going to be giving testimony within council chambers as well as on Zoom. Raise your right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God? Thank you.
So the item under the quasi-judicial public hearing is item of VARH 2021-0150, Juan Hernandez. The location is 16100 East Troon Circle, Miami Lakes, Florida 33014, where the applicant is requesting a variance from section 1315-1509 to allow a fence with a front setback of 0 feet where a 25 feet are required, and a variance from section 13-1509 to allow a fence at the property line in the side yard facing a street where a 15-foot setback is required. If staff would commence.
Susana, also for staff. As you guys may remember, this petition was made on April 6th hearing, and it was continued by the board because they were not being able to meet agreement with the applicant at that time. The applicant was allowed to retract his application at the time and continue it until a future date, which happens to be today. The application, as far as staff is concerned, is the exact same thing that was presented to you on April 6th, so it's still the same configuration and the same aesthetics that were presented on April 6th, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of staff at this point?
And for the record, the staff report is entered into the record on this one as well, and the recommendation continues to be denial of the application as it was. In the last, I believe the applicant would like to make presentation though.
Okay, if the applicant would like to.
Good evening, board. Thank you. Ken Damas of the law offices of Adorno, Canal, and Damas on behalf of Juan Fernandez. My client apologizes for not being here today. Today marks a 1-year anniversary for his father's death of COVID-19, so he asked me to come in his place. I made a presentation for the board. I did review the last hearing on April 6th, and it's my understanding a big question the board had is the uniqueness of this property and the need to have a fence. And I think the need is going to be shown and proven that in public safety it's going to be warranted. I did a PowerPoint presentation. That's the proposed gate. That's how it would be rendered. We would have greenery and it would surround the property. That would be the survey showing the actual markings of the fence, which I'm sure that the board has seen. This is what makes it unique. It's kind of hard to see it up there. I think it's pivotal to this case.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is there any way that that screen can be shared so that I can view that? I don't know if the help desk can somehow. Thank you.
Hold on
That's
just a
our
moment.
board member that's via Zoom.
Sorry, that's beyond my pay grade.
Don, can you
I know.
please share it?
I could email it to her if
No, I
Oh,
think
no,
they're directing it there. I see it
Do you see it?
blurry. Not well, to be honest.
Would you like it emailed to you? Board member
If it's
Yanis?
not too much, if it's not too much trouble,
I can have my staff
if
email
it can
to
be,
her.
Okay, all right, I'll have them email it to you. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much. May I approach? It's just a printed version of what you're seeing on the board.
I'm okay with it, Mr. Chair.
Yes, yes. And how are you going to give Miriam's?
This is exactly what you guys are seeing on the board.
Thanks.
So the question, and when I analyze this case, the question is why is 16100 E Troon
Sir,
unique?
please speak into the microphone so it gets recorded.
I apologize. Why is 16100 East True unique? Well, the reason it's unique, it is all the properties located, and I named all the properties are in a corner lot, similar to the property in question. The two streets that are the setback for 16100 Eastern Circle is the closest by far. It is the closest to traffic by far. Being a survivor at the age of 8, I was struck by a New Jersey Transit bus. God, if my grandmother would have had a fence, it wouldn't have happened. His child, and you're gonna see throughout the presentation, cars fly through that area, knocking down garbage cans, almost running them over, and you're gonna see it on the video. That is the biggest public concern. It is not like the other case where they're trying to do a hospital. Here you're trying to save a family and protect a family. I think that is, when you do a public safety analysis, I think that's what warrants a fence. And if he was, for example, the first fence in the community, you know, it would be a little bit harder of a burden. But there's 5 large fences and over 100 properties that have either let it be columns or let it be hedges on the property line, dividing the property line. So, and we're gonna go through those properties. Those are the properties that are similar, which you're looking at the chart, that have setbacks much larger than Mr. Fernandez's property. The next slide will show you the traffic reports that have occurred, the accidents that have occurred in the community since 2016, which have been 21 in total. Burglaries, you have 2. And vehicle burglaries, you have 13. And that we obtained that from the police department. The cost for, if the board would like to know, the cost to erect this structure is $58,000. My client would like to do to protect his family. The properties that have existing fence structures that will go through it are listed above. 7200 South Prestwick Place, 7210 South Prestwick Way, 7225.
Sir, I'm so sorry. Can you make sure to talk into the mic?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Right, thank you.
7225 Glen Eagle Drive, 15800 West Prestwick, and 15890 West Prestwick. The first one, as you can see, the fence is erected at the property line. Second property, which abuts it, it's a large white fence, no greenery, nothing like my client's it's intending to build. Third property, fourth property, fifth property. Then here we go with the hedges, stone structures throughout the community. And I don't want to bore I understand the board, I don't want to bore the board with pictures, but I'm just going to flash through them, multiple properties while I was driving through the property I took pictures of. You have more separations, more separations, more separations, and it just goes on and on and on. And I didn't want to bore you, but if in my presentation, those are all the properties. There's over 82 properties that have separations. This is the property that is behind my client's property. As you can see, the setback is a lot larger than Mr. Fernandez's property. And these videos, I don't know if I can play it through this show, but this will show a vehicle that the board could review after the meeting, which will show a vehicle that actually went onto my client's property and struck a garbage can and actually left a mirror. Oh, actually you can see it. We'll watch it together. You see the vehicle. Goes onto the property line. I apologize for the speed. It was a lot faster on my computer. And I actually have the mirror that you'll see in the picture. It's right here. That's the garbage can. And then this is the more disturbing picture that I can relate with. This video is going to show how his son was almost struck by a vehicle. You'll see the son driving in the little scooter, and the vehicle misses him by seconds. And then as a concerned parent, my client obviously goes outside and tries to alert them. Here are letters from the residents that are directly in front of my client's property that petition and that approve for said exception. We have a total of 4 different ones and signatures supporting the erection of the fence. It's also important to note, and there's a plethora of signatures, when we excavated and we went door to door, we were informed that the residents that signed the petition against the erection of the fence were not provided a correct rendering. They thought it was just going to be a simple, white wall that was going to erect. There was going to be no greenery. It wasn't going to be aesthetically pleasing. When they found out that it was actually, and were shown the actual renderings, most of those residents actually signed this petition. So I think it's very important to point that out. Again, board, I think public policy, public safety outweighs any concern for the erection of this fence. And I think I provided what makes this property unique. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. I'm happy to answer it. I'm well versed in the statute. I read over the bylaws. Anything you want to ask me, I'm here.
Is there any questions of the applicant from the board? Have you guys gotten the approval of the homeowners association?
I would have to defer to my staff. I believe that they're not against it. They haven't approved for it. They just remained, they informed my staff that they're diverting to you guys whether you guys would approve it or not. That's the last I heard.
All right, fair. Is there any other questions? No further questions? Okay, so we make, I guess there'll be other commentary.
And Mr. De La Sierra, I didn't contact you. I apologize. It wasn't my office. It might have been somebody else, but it was, no, I know. I just wanted to just make that clear.
Someone called me on the phone
Yeah,
to discuss it, and I said I cannot.
Yeah, I would never
You're
impede. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, if there's other members that raise their hand and wanted to speak on the item, please come forward.
Good evening, board members. My name is Marlene Garcia. I live at 7255 South Prestwick Place, Miami Lakes, 33014. I wanted to address initially the comments that the representative made about the lots, the other existing walls that are on the property, and trying to gather my thoughts here, but I want to express to you the significance of the difference with those properties in comparison to the applicant's property. First and foremost, the lot sizes. So he mentioned there are, I believe it was 6 lots that have walls. 2 of those are actually set back 25 feet. So I'm not going to bring those up because those did not require variance, and those are rather large. There's 4 and that have actual walls, and 3 of them happen to be on my street. One of them is on the west side of South Prestwick, and the other 2 are on the east side. Those lots range in size from half an acre to over an acre. So they're extremely large. The other lot is on Glen Eagle, and it's also a very large lot, 3/4 of an acre. So these are really, really big properties. So much so that the setbacks, which I know it's not a requirement, but I just want to give you an idea, the setbacks on the house to the front property line on those lots are no less than double the required setback, and actually most of them are over 4 times the required setback. The ones on South Prestwick, there's 107 foot on one and 121 feet. Again, I know it's not a requirement, but just to give you a visual of where the walls are and where the front of the door to those homes are at. There is a big piece of property here. Another major point is, and it goes to something that the representative mentioned, is the location of the lots. All those other existing walls are on end of the streets. They're at the end of the street. They're in a cul-de-sac. None of them are corner lots. So their visibility there really is very little visibility. He did point one out. It's on a newer property. And I want to just clarify that wall, that's the one where it's a white wall, and he stated there was no landscaping. That house was actually only built about 5 years ago. But the wall has been there since about 1972. because that lot was actually a tennis court. It belonged to the adjacent property owner, and he sold off that lot. The owners of that property, after they bought it, they built around that wall. So they didn't modify that wall in any way except for plastering it and painting it. They didn't increase the height, they didn't add to it. All they did was plaster it, paint it, and put in a new gate. The other thing I wanted to mention is all of those properties, all of them, those walls were there before the town of Miami Lakes was incorporated. So none of those were built after the incorporation. And so another thing I wanted to mention with regards to the safety, and I'm actually in a very unique position to talk about this. So my husband and I bought our home 21 years ago. And when we moved there, we have two sons. Our youngest child was 5 months old, and our oldest had just turned 2. So our house sits on the curve from West Prestwick turning into South Prestwick. So there's a blind spot in either direction. If you're in the street or in the swale and there's a car turning from West Prestwick onto South Prestwick or vice versa, you're not going to see the person in the street. So if you're crossing the street with your dog or biking, you're going to get hit because people do speed. I will agree with the applicant. We do have an issue with speeding, but I'm afraid that happens in every neighborhood. So it's not unique to Loch Lomond. But my point being is, as our kids got older, was a concern for us, especially when they began to play sports. So our oldest child started playing flag football, and he had friends come over to throw the football around, and they wanted to play in the front yard. And my husband and I said, you know what? We have 3 spectacular tot lots in this community. They're big. They're not on busy roads, because one on Berwick, there's another one on Glen Eagle. So they're not facing Troon, which tends to be the more traveled road. And so we walked over with them. We played ball. It ended up being a blessing in disguise, because we met neighbors, and the kids got to meet a lot of the other kids in the community. And so I would say, give it a try. The parks are there for a reason. You get to meet neighbors, your kid will have a lot of space to throw around a ball, and it would really make more sense. So for all those reasons, I respectfully ask for you to deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers?
Okay, Joni Graham. 1964, my address was 14570 Fitzpatrick Road. My current address is 7335 Glen Eagle Drive. Growing up, anyone who still remembers what they were talking about, the cows, we didn't have air conditioning. And at the end of the night, when the cows came across and the smell, we had to close our jalousies. And it was really hot in my house. And the second thing was, I went to Our Lady of the Lakes that was in a barn, a dairy barn, okay? So, I'm going to try to stay on focus because someone told me this is all I need to say. A variance. It's different, divergent, or inconsistent. When Loch Lomond was designed, folks, that's what we used to call ourselves, bought for the purpose of the design. There was a master plan, and I know the guy who did it. A variance goes against the original intent of the community, and in our case, Loch Lomond, and we're a special district, and off the town rules. I would hope that you do not approve this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members in chambers that would like to speak on the item? Please come forward.
Good evening. Roman Cordova, 7215 South Prestwick Place. Thank you very much for hearing me out. I'd like to address some of the inconsistencies and not unfactual items that they brought up. One is that from what they said, you'd make it seem like we live in a community in a main road where traffic is just going crazy. I've lived in Loch Lomond for 3 years, longtime resident of Miami Lakes for the last 15 years. And I can tell you that inside of Loch Lomond, we have very little traffic. As a matter of fact, I let my 8-year-old son sometimes go out by himself because we feel safe inside of Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond, the people that generally are in there are the residents. I've seen maybe very few instances of maybe a teenager that has sped sometimes, and their attention has been called to that. So there is, we have to ask ourselves, what is this variance trying to accomplish? What problem is it trying to solve? That he lives on a busy road that has so much traffic that you have to build a wall to protect yourself? No, that's incorrect. Crime, that there's a crime wave or whatever that you have to fence yourself in, that is also incorrect because I attend all the homeowner association meetings. My wife is the secretary, and basically we have the police department come and do presentations as far as crime is concerned. And I feel that that is one of the safest places to live in Miami Lakes. We tax ourselves for roaming security. There could be crime, nothing is foolproof, but I can tell you that it's not for crime, it's not for traffic. And one last point that I would like to bring is what kind of a precedent does this set if we allow the master plan? One of the reasons that most of us bought our lots and bought our houses in Miami Lakes was the aesthetics, the zoning. And it was because of that zoning, not in spite of that zoning, that we bought, because there's no fences in front, there is no aluminum carports allowed, there is no commercial vehicles allowed. So we have a certain look and a certain aesthetic that most of us, we knew exactly what we were buying into, and I think we bought it because of that. It maintains our property values. And, once we go down the road of accepting variances, I mean, we have a master plan, we have a certain way of doing things that defines our community. And I think we should keep that, and I would strongly urge you to deny this petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments here at Town Chamber? Let me just see if there's any other one in Zoom, and then if we have another resident that would like to speak. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Amy Alonso. I live on West Prestwick Place. I am actually one of the corner houses that was mentioned. And to give you an idea where we live, when my husband and I pull up our SUVs up to our driveway, the back of the SUV is actually overhang onto the sidewalk. That is how close we are to the sidewalk and to the street. We have 4 little girls. The oldest is 5, the youngest is 3 months. We would be in a great position to be of concern, or to be concerned rather, of traffic in that area. We are in that corner house. We do experience a lot of traffic. We have seen some speeding, but nothing that would warrant any sort of idea that we would want to build a wall around our house. I'm also an architect, although my specialty is in interiors. I do not do landscape architecture, anything on the urban planning side. I do respect a master plan because of my background. And I agree with my neighbors that this would be a detriment to our community, and it would set a precedence for further discussions like this that we would not support. So I too urge you not to support this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other person that would like to speak on this here in chambers? Okay, so I think there was some on the Zoom that
Yes.
would like to speak.
Whoever's on Zoom, I'm gonna start calling your name to see if you have a testimony to give on this particular item. Adian Medina. Adian Medina. All right.
Yes.
Are you here to speak on the Loch Lomond house?
No. Okay, thank you. Angel Alvarez. Angel Alvarez?
Yes, I'm here. I agree with my neighbors from Block Loman against the wall.
Thank you. Angel Pinto?
Yes, I'm here to support Juan Fernandez's wall as I live on East Troon. And as his attorney has stated, there is a lot of vehicles that do drive by fast. I have a 7-year-old son that likes to be outside, ride his bike, and it's always concerning when there's vehicles speeding and they don't see him. And I do support him. The comments that were made earlier from the other residents live on the opposite side. So they really don't see the traffic that we see on East Troon Circle. We see a lot of traffic. We see a lot of people. I've seen Jeeps run across one of our playground, driving across just because it was a Jeep and it was flooded. We wanted to drive right across. If my son would have been in that area within a minute or so, he would have been hit by that Jeep. So I do support Juan Fernandez's wall because at the end of the day, we have to protect our kids and protect our property.
Thank you. Okay, Beatrice? Beatrice, are you here to speak?
No, I don't have any additional comment, but I'm not in favor of the gate.
All right, thank you. Christopher Crespo, are you here to speak on the Loch Lomond home?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Shrivas, are you here to speak on the Loch Lomond home? Daniel Shrivas. Eugenio, are you here to speak on the Loch Lomond home? Greg?
Not at this time.
Right, thank you. Miriam Damani? Miriam Damani? Councilman Jeffrey Rodriguez, would you like to speak?
Hi, Ashley. No, I just watching,
Okay.
see how everything's going. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesus?
Yes, hello. I've been a 9-year resident of Loch Lomond, about a 15-year resident of Miami Lakes. My feelings on this, of course, is that I respect the applicant's desire to want to protect his family and his children. I am a father of 6, but currently I have 2 small ones that live with me at home, and I understand totally. However, one of the things that makes this town beautiful is the fact that we have an open landscape, the beautiful trees, the fact that the town does protect the aesthetics of our town. One of the reasons that I left Hialeah, which is my hometown, and I was growing up, is because chop down a tree, build a fence, build an efficiency, have 17 cars in the front lawn, whereas there's more regulation in our town, and I totally respect and admire that. I happen to live on a corner lot. There are cars that obviously sometimes exceed the speed, which is unfortunate. It's going to be a fact anywhere you go is outside on their own, because I am in fear that maybe a car at some point might veer off or they may just run into the road. But again, as a parent, that's my responsibility to protect my children in that way until that could endanger their lives. As far as establishing a precedent, I agree with my other neighbors. I think that if you allow this to occur, I think it's open up a can of worms, and you're going to have requests for people wanting to do the same. And I know because I've had guests over my house that are residents that have unfortunately, or fortunately rather, had their applications denied because of the setbacks. And they've been upset about it. So imagine if this went through, they would be very upset. So I think establishing the precedent would create a huge problem for the town. That's number one. Just kind of breaking up the aesthetics of our particular community would be two. And as far as security, I mean, we have 24-hour roving security. I feel very safe here. You know, they're always on point. Plus, you know, we always have to be, as individual citizens, aware of our surroundings. And if there's someone that's strange in our community, report it or be aware of it. So I think we bear also a certain degree of responsibility upon ourselves to protect our own and our neighbors. But as far as security, I don't see that to be really an issue. And again, I respect him for wanting to protect his family and children. However, I don't see the need, particularly on that particular property, to have a wall because it's a large house on a small lot, and so there's not a whole lot of grass in front of his house, from his house to the actual sidewalk. And it would be in a direct line of sight of a lot of the traffic on East Troon. And I happen to live right on East Troon, and I happen to live right on the corner. So my particular position is to not approve of the wall itself for the reasons that I just stated. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesus. Can you please state your address, please?
16221 East Troon Circle.
Thank you. Joshua? Joshua?
No.
All right, thank you. Chris?
No.
All right, thank you. Laura C., do you have testimony at this time?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Marissa Gonzalez?
No.
Okay. Peggy? Peggy? All right. Raul?
Yes, I agree with most of the comments have been said by most of the neighbors. We are not supporting the fence for the many reasons already presented. If there are concerns about the safety, there are some other things we can do to reduce the speed of the cars that are going through, and also to, in terms of the safety of burglary or anything like that. We've been living in this house for 3 years. We've never felt any threat. And the community is pretty well communicated. There's the security guards all of the time around and looking for any problem. So this is one of the safest community I have ever lived in. I understand the concerns that he might have. There is no enough reasons for doing any changes into the master plans.
Thank you. Raul, can you please state your address?
It's 16021 West Troon Circle.
Thank you. Renee?
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to point out that I believe the representative's presentation was a bit disingenuous. I agree with the majority of our neighbors. This is a safe community. There's no need to deviate from the master plan. We've been here for 11 years, 7220 South Prestwick, in Loch Lomond for 11 years, in Miami Lakes for a little bit over 20 years before the town was incorporated. And we have never had any issues, particularly here in Loch Lomond, until my front door neighbor's tires were slashed, and we all know who that was. So I do not support variance at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Rose, do you have a comment at this time?
Yes, hello?
Yes. We can
Hi,
hear
my
you.
name is Rosemary. I reside in 7035 Glen Eagle Drive, and I also agree with my neighbors that we do not need a wall there because it'll set a bad precedent for everything else, and we have a good security in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony?
Yes, I live in 7230 South Crest Place, and I disagree with the variance. When that house was purchased, he knew the size of the lot and should have been aware, if not aware, should have been aware of the zoning rules. If we make this exception for this house, how are we going to stop others from building walls all over our beautiful neighborhood? This is a friendly and safe community, and allowing the walls to be built will completely change the character of our neighborhood. I disagree totally. You know, they talk about speeding cars and people riding bikes or the scooter. A wall is not going to protect the individual riding a bike or a scooter. If we need to address speeding cars, that's a different agenda and a different format, and what needs to be done than build a wall around a house. There is, to my knowledge, I've lived here 11 years and never had a security issue in this neighborhood. This is a great, great neighborhood. We look out for each other and we have security. So I strongly disagree with changing the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. V. Perez?
Yes, hello. This is Veronica Perez, 7225 South Prestwick Place. I'm also against the wall build because it will alter the aesthetics of our beautiful community. And we recently moved to Loch Lomond to feel more secure in our town, and we love our neighbors and feel very comfortable, and we've lived in Miami Lakes for the past 13 years. So I don't see where the security issues are. And thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, Veronica. Is there anyone on Zoom at this time that I haven't called your name to give testimony?
Frank Moore.
Okay, go ahead,
Ashley,
sir.
Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Frank Moore. I live at 7021 Torkin Place, Miami Lakes 34014. I own the property that is directly adjacent to the back of the picture you're looking. I can assure you that the wall between our house now looks nothing like the wall in the picture. I've lived here for 16 years. I love this place. I really don't think the variance needs to be changed. There's minimal traffic that I'm aware of. There are some kids that run around pretty fast, but other than that, it's a very safe neighborhood. And I bought here because it is a beautiful place to live. And there's quite a difference between Hialeah and Miami Lakes. I'm sure everyone has noticed that. So I am definitely against the variance at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Anyone else on Zoom that would like to give testimony at this time?
Yes, hi, hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Mania Moore. I'm Mr. Frank Moore's wife. And my address is 7021 Thorpen Place. When we bought the house, we had a beautiful lot, empty lot outside. When we go now and look at our front, the first thing, if you look to your left, is a wall that is huge. We can't see anything except that wall. So I don't understand why if we already have a wall and it's completely surrounding the house, why would we need another wall or another fence? Is what we don't understand.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else on Zoom? that would like to provide testimony? Okay, at this time, Chair, I wanted it to be noted that there was a petition submitted with about 46 signatures in opposition of the variance. And there is an email from Monday from Frank Moore in objection to the variance. At our meeting, oh wait, no, sorry. There is another letter in opposition from Marlene Garcia. And from our previous meeting back in April, when this was first heard, the applicant submitted a petition with about 17 or 18 signatures in support of the variance. And there was another email provided in opposition from Frank Moore as well back in April.
Okay, if the applicant wants to approach.
So, just a few things. Number one is there was some allegations about disingenuous. The reports that I have provided, they're public record. I take great lengths and great pride in my being candid to this tribunal and every other tribunal in the state of Florida, state of New York, and DC. You can double check my facts are the facts, they're correct. As for the videos, you saw it yourself, you saw the speeding vehicles. As for the properties, the residents that were present, their properties, as pointed out, it's in a different area of the community. And if you search each of those properties as I was doing, they differ from my client's property as they have an extremely big land in front of their property. The home is not located abutting the street as Mr. Fernandez's property is, which I provided what makes this property unique. I think, as everybody feels safe until something happens. Everybody felt safe before COVID hit. Nobody thought you had to wear a mask everywhere. COVID hit, everybody wears masks, people died, now people are worried. Until someone gets hurt, they're gonna oversee this need to have a fence on this corner to protect the family. I would not like to live with my conscience having an 11-year-old boy, or God forbid, an elderly person get hit by a car because it's not quote unquote aesthetically pleasing. I think that is the wrong precedent. I think it's not what morals go for. I think it's not what public safety is for, and I don't think it's what this board should be concerned with. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant or anyone?
Any questions? I apologize. I walked away.
No.
Board Member Yanis has her hand raised. She has a question.
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead, Board Member Yanis.
I apologize, you're muted. Still muted.
You need to unmute yourself, board member.
Can you unmute?
She's unmuted. Now she's muted again.
Can she see me or no? Or
I can see it, but
yeah?
I don't know if I can hear her.
We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was muting myself, unmuting myself, and someone was muting me back. So I couldn't see your second page, but there was questions about, where you pulled this information from and the veracity of these, this prior timeline, this prior history. So I'm curious as to where you retrieved. You said you got public records, where they were retrieved from, and the scope of time where you gathered it. So is this, did you look the past, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? It just kind of want some sort of a time frame on that.
Yes, within each of the spreadsheets will have a time frame on the top of it. So when regarding the burglaries, accidents, and vehicle burglaries, accidents, and home burglaries are from 2016 to present. Regarding the setbacks, we did that study using public records and maps, and that was as recent as, I want to say, about a month and a half ago.
Okay. And what did you use to do the research? Just basically, Miami-Dade records?
That's correct. We used Miami-Dade property search, and we also used Google Maps.
Thank you.
And then just to boot, there was another allegation that I just heard get thrown out there, and it was a little troublesome about some vehicle slashing or some wheel slashing that I'm unaware of. I don't even know how to even respond to that, but perhaps if there was a fence, there would be no slashing. I don't know. Other than that.
Any other questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. Do you have any records of accidents that have occurred in that area, specific area that you're referring to?
Yeah. Vehicle accidents?
Vehicle accidents, people, involving pedestrians or...
Do you have extra copies so we can all see it? I mean, I'd like to see what you're showing him.
Yeah, I'm going to give you,
It's part of
it's
your
on my
PowerPoint.
slide. It's on the sixth
It's one of the
slide.
slides, I think.
It's one of the slides?
PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's on the sixth slide. But here you go. I'll give it to you. I have an extra copy. Actually, if you want, I'll leave you one hard copy of the entire presentation. And I apologize for not.
No. Yeah, I think once it goes in as a PowerPoint, is it part of the public record?
Yes, we will need a copy of the PowerPoint for the record, okay?
I have it. I have a copy. I have a copy. One of your associates sent it to me, so I have it on my email.
Perfect.
I'll just forward it to the rest of the board.
So this is a 5-year report.
From 2016 to present.
Right. And, but I don't see any pedestrian accidents or incidents here.
There's vehicle accidents.
Vehicle accidents.
Correct.
Okay.
They don't, it doesn't.
So there hasn't been a kid that has been run over?
It won't just like when you do a public record request, it just shows you accident. It won't differentiate what's a pedestrian accident versus vehicle accident. It all cloaks it under one accident. Even my accident, if you look it up, if you look up my name, New Jersey Transit, it's labeled as a vehicle accident.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, I ask because, I do have a very close relative that lives right on Troon.
Uh-huh.
And happens to be my grandson. My grandson grew up in Loch Lomond. He's 24 years old. He's never been he never was one of those well-behaved kids that you would tell, sit here, and he would sit there. He was kind of active, let's call it that way. And has grown beautifully to be a very good young man and safe.
Congratulations.
Right. So, and all the years that I have visited my daughter there, I've never seen anybody. I see more speeding around Lake Cynthia where I live, a lot more than what I have ever seen in Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond has been a lot quieter, even in normal times where trick-or-treating was in effect. Thousands of people in the past few years I've seen going to Loch Lomond to get their candies and whatever, mainly because I think that they feel very safe in that neighborhood in more ways than one. So I kind of disagree with with your assumption or whatever, but I just wanted to make that statement, Mr. Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Senra.
On one of the slides, the one that you gave us all copies, the ones with the corner lots.
Yes, sir.
These are all the corner lots within the Loch Lomond
Yes, sir.
development?
Yes, sir.
How many of these have the fencing, or that's, because that was a separate slide that you only had like 5?
That was a separate slide.
Because the only ones that I think, I know that, well, I don't even know if any of these corner lots have a fence at that time. Do you know?
In the community, there's the 5 properties that have the big erected fence. And then during the last meeting, I overheard that the board was concerned that hedges were also considered a structure, out of which I counted a total of, I believe, 82 properties that have an edge at the property line. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I was just basically looking at comparing the 21 corner home lots that are similarly situated, to see if these had, because I've driven by the area and I know the 4 or 5 homes that have
I don't believe any of these
the
properties.
wall per se.
Yeah, none of these, I don't believe that any of these properties have
I don't think so either.
a concrete wall. I think some of them have the hedges.
A hedge or something like that.
That's correct.
Mr. Sherman, I do have another,
No, please.
not a question, but a statement. And if I recollect properly, I think that when we were presented with this petition back in April, we asked Mr. Fernandez to consider staying within the setback limits, what was allowed. I think his answer was that it would be too close to the property. And it's not really our concern. Our concern is to comply with the, with the ruling. We even said, let's table this for now, so that when you come back, you can come back with something that we could consider. But I see that now it's still the same. It's not, there's no changes there whatsoever. Is there any reason why it was not considered?
I think the big concern is that his property, the lack of setback that his property has, considering all the other properties in the area. His property by over 50% is as close to the property line as possible. So I don't think in terms of if one is going with, which is what he's going for, is for safety, I think having a wall built on top of your house defeats the purpose of safety. Actually, if you were to recall in the news, and I don't want to misspeak, I believe it was about a week ago, in Fort Lauderdale, a vehicle veered off, went into the home, and crashed into the master bedroom, killing 2 residents. We don't want that to happen.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have another one. There was mentioned that I guess you would agree, because we've all seen the properties in the area and have some familiarity. You would agree that the ones that do have, the 5 homes that do have a fence, they're actually more uniquely placed. In other words, they're not somewhat in the center of Loch Lomond. They're more tucked away on cul-de-sac areas, right?
I would respectfully disagree. I think the 72, and I apologize, I'll tell you the exact address, the white fence house, the 7210, I believe that house is dead on. Like when you're driving down the block, you hit that property dead on. So I would disagree that it would be unique.
Okay, just for clarity, the one on South Prestwick Road, that's the one you're talking about?
The 7210 South Prestwick?
Okay. That one's almost right there on the corner with no other houses around it.
No, there's another house, there's an older house on the left-hand side. But when you're driving down, and I don't know, I'm not very familiar with the area, so I don't know all the streets, but when you're driving down the street, that's the house that you kind of hit when you're driving down. So I would disagree.
Right, so you would agree that that wall existed before the town was incorporated back in 2000, right?
I disagree. I looked at Google Map images, and I looked at images. If you look at the house that abuts it, it's a concrete brick by brick wall, and it doesn't seem to me to be the same height nor structure as the wall that is there now. That wall to me seems very familiar and very consistent with the construction of that 7210 South Prestwick Place.
Okay, but would you agree, as stated by some of the residents, that this wall existed? Now, it may have been painted, but in terms of height and location, it already was there prior to 2000.
No, I do not agree.
Okay, what do you have to support that?
Well, I have the fact that the wall, as it's shown on the pictures, does not appear to be nearly as similar to the one on 72 Prestwick Place. There is, if you look at the wall, it's smooth in nature. The height appears different. There's drainage on the wall. To me, it does not appear, and I respectfully disagree.
No, and I understand, but I guess my question for you, more than just to basically go on something more than your position, which I understand, and I get that you're here advocating on behalf of your client, but in terms of our responsibility to make some sort of a decision, we need something further than argument. So is there something you found on your Google search, or maybe a document that actually reflects that something was built post 2000?
The answer to your question is no. There's no permit for the fence that I was able to locate. This fence to be created, and that is coupled by the fact that there's about 80 odd properties with some sort of hedge structure or column structure on the community.
Okay, thank you.
If I might, through the chair, I reached out to Ms. Alonso today and asked specifically for her to resend us the minutes from the last meeting with the detail which we received. Okay. And I wanted to be 100% sure before I spoke that I'd had the opportunity to review this. Along with both, we received, as was stated, information in opposition, and I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to review the support. It's very specific in our minutes that this intent of the board, as I recall, and is supported by the minutes, that the expectation was that you would come back with something else. And with all due respect, for me to sit here and try to read slides on the screen, I couldn't see that. And honestly, it's August. This was heard by us in April. It would seem to me, out of courtesy and respect to the board so that we could see what you saw, it would have been perhaps easier for us to hear what you were saying if we had seen it. Because honestly, you can tell me about the accidents, and it's a 5-year period. The question was asked about, were there any pedestrian incidents? And no one here is not in favor of safety, to the contrary. But I can tell you, as a almost 30-year resident of the town of Miami Lakes, as a parent, there are certain things that I had to do to ensure the well-being of my child when I first lived in a rental community and then in my townhome. The town has over 100 opportunities in the way of parks for that kind of thing. So I see all sides of this. But most importantly, in the minutes, it was very specific of what the expectation that night was that we would see the following month. I just wanted to point that out. So there is no revision, there is no modification, there is no change, if you will, so we are exactly where we were in April. Am I correct?
Not necessarily. In terms of if you recall, if my understanding, I was not present during the last hearing, I was retained recently, but if you look at the renderings, Mr. Fernandez now elected to have a lot more greenery than it was originally entailed. He had a lot of greenery added to the fence that was not added originally.
I'm sorry, but in the way of the plan to make the revisions to move it back or to make a modification, none of those things were done. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
We have no more further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd like to say something.
Wait, you want to, is it something to address to them, or, because I'm?
No, not to address.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'll close, basically at this time, I'll close the public hearing, and we will discuss the item amongst us and make a motion.
Yeah, through the chair, I had requested that they make that change. That was just came up. We gave them the additional time. I have it on. And they didn't make a change. It just was brought up again. And I feel like nothing has been done, that we've spent all this time again without really moving neither forward nor backwards on this. And I would like to make the motion to do exactly as the staff has recommended, and that's the motion that I would like to put in. And I will second that motion.
Okay, so.
And I agree with you because we were sitting next to each other and we were making recommendations on bringing it, X amount of feet back, 15, 10 feet. And I made the statement, that you're not even getting to first base on that. So I recall correctly, and nothing has been done.
Yes.
So I will concur with your motion. Thank you.
Board Member Yanes has her hand up, I think.
Okay, well, I just want to
I'm
state that
sorry,
there was a motion.
I don't even know if it was up from before still.
Give me just a second,
Go
just
ahead.
for the record, that there is a motion made by Board Member Senra. No, Board Member
De La Sierra.
and
Second
De La
by
Sierra,
Member
and
Senra.
seconded by Board Member Senra. So at this time, we'll open it up for discussion on that motion, and then we'll take a vote.
And I think Mr.
I get-
Leoncio also jumped in on that second. So,
Yeah.
Through the chair. Oh,
I-
Board Member Yanes.
I
think
guess-
Board Member Yanes wanted.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just kind of want to echo the sentiment of everyone. I think we all took quite a bit of time in April and actually just really as an attempt as a board to help the resident come with more information. I remember specifically not only all of us asking for alternate plans, but we specifically asked for that neighboring residents' opinion as far as whether or not they agreed with the change. This letter in opposition shows me that all the adjacent properties are actually in opposition. So I think that's new information that we didn't have back in April, but actually that kind of way to scale to the other side. And, we sat again in May, and then we waited in June, and then now here we are in July, seemingly with the same information. I think we all understand the desire to want to have a safer property for all of our families. But my greatest concern here, and I am a proponent and to an extent to assisting in any way we can. I think we all try to attempt to assist the residents in all we can, but the precedent that this will set in our community. I think if you will end up having gates and boxes in every single lot, in every single home in Miami Lakes, and when you go around and you drive around, the beauty and the uniqueness that adds to this town is the greenery. So I think the precedent that can be made it's just a difficult one. And I wish there was new additional information that the petitioner would have put forth that we requested and we delayed, and we actually reset it on 3 separate occasions to allow him that opportunity. But I just don't see anything new at this time, and I think because of the precedent, that's something that this board, really needs to be mindful of, just because of the town. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. So, I think that the wall itself, I think that I stated that it was a nice looking wall, and, we aren't to look, the things that we are to decide on whether or not we approve a variance or not are simple, and there's 7 criteria. And, I look through them, and I don't see that they made the argument for any of them. and especially with the plight of the applicant, where you know they have a unique circumstance specific to the property. I don't think that we are even we don't have a right to build a wall. I mean, and the narrative that you know they're going to crash through the home. I mean, everyone would have that concern. I think that's, you know, it's not a street that's very busy, and I think that from the last meeting, you know that my position on it. I'm gonna deny it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'd just like to say my house is 25 feet from the road, and I've lived there since 1981. I have children. Both my kids were born there, grew up there, and I have grandkids that play in the neighborhood, go to the pocket parks. We have no need for the fence. The fence is beautiful. It is pretty. I'm not going to say it's not, but I don't feel it's really necessary in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, I mean, basically, obviously I was at the meeting as well. At that meeting, we expressed concerns. We actually opened and reopened and closed and reopened that board, kind of to indicate to the applicant that I felt, and most of our board members felt, that this was a little too intrusive for the area, for the type of property, for the precedent that it would set. We asked specifically about the neighbors in the area back next to them. Unfortunately, it appears that they decided to oppose this. Actually, if I go through the criteria, as Board Member Fernandez was saying, the only criteria that technically, in my opinion, would fit would be that we did receive some written support, but we also received a lot more in opposition. From my count, it looks like the number of supporters did not change from the April to the present. But we received a lot more. Okay, maybe let me rephrase it. We received a lot more in opposition, unfortunately. The record indicates that I received indicates that there's more opposition than there are supporters. We could review that at some point. Yeah. I mean, basically, at the end of the day, we have to go with what's submitted to us. And so what I have submitted reflects that, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Not the first time that I'd be wrong. But overall, I just don't think that this is something that I would be in favor of. Again, I'm actually a very big proponent of your personal property rights. I believe we own our properties and we should be allowed to do as much as possible within our properties. But when it affects the aesthetics of the community in general, as I think this one does, I would vote in favor of the motion to deny in this case. The other site, I spent Sunday about an hour going by the neighborhood, and I actually went to the Google issue, and I saw the issue with the wall, because the one wall that was most similar, if you want to say that, is the 7210 South Prestwick. I went back into it and I realized what has already been stated, that property was adjoining the one next door. So there was a fence, whether it was the same color or not the same color, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, there was always a fence there on the property line. And to me, that was the only one that was somewhat similar to this one. So unfortunately, I think one of the few times that I'll vote to deny a variance in favor of a resident, and it's nothing personal. I like the fence. If I had the house, I'd probably want the fence. I'll be, the first one to admit that. I just think my responsibility is not to one neighbor, it's to the community as a whole. And I have a real big problem. That's why I asked the question of these corner lots, how many more have that fence? I think the answer was none or almost none. It's not a precedent that I want to set for another 20 members, because that changes the whole community. And if that's what the community of Loch Lomond wants, there's a procedure to do that. You come in front of the board, the actual elected officials, and you ask them to change the code. Because we can't change the code, we could do a variance to a code. And that's kind of the difference that I kind of at the beginning wanted to explain what our role was versus the commissioners can change the code. If they decide to change the code saying you could do fences 15 feet high, there's nothing I could do about it if that's the code. Now, if the code says you can't do a fence, in order to get a variance, you do need to come from it, and that's the only authority that we have. That's my explanation. I think we're ready to call the roll at this point.
Board Member Yanis,
Just so that we're clear, can you read back what the motion is to deny, correct?
yes, the motion is to deny.
Yes.
Board Member Fernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Leoncio,
Yes.
Board Member Senra,
Yes.
Board Member De La Sera,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Matos,
Yes.
Chairman Julia.
Yes.
Motion passes to deny the variance.
That was the only item in the quasi-judicial portion of our agenda. The next item would be director's report, if there is one.
Yes, I would like to let you guys know that the short-term rentals will be going for second hearing next week. And that's one of your, also the pavers item was also passed by, and is now part of the code. And obviously, whenever the item of the hospital comes back, if they require a zoning change or a change of, or an app zoning, it would come before your board first as an advisory capacity, because you are advising the council on all matters that have to do with land use codes, including changes of zoning. So you would not be approving the item, you would be advising the council as you do with every other ordinance.
But again, we haven't even gotten the application, it was completely pulled. And if it does, there's a lot of things with it, so.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to adjourn the meeting.